Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and this is Friday. Joining me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to the start of an adventurous weekend.
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, why don't we jump right into the stories while I enjoy my morning café brew?
Oh, what are you going to enjoy this morning?
Some Georgia peach tea.
Oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. Starting our first story, am I the a-hole for walking out of an event when my fiancé introduced me as a bookkeeper? I, female 45, have a fiancé, male 55, who is retired military officer. I own a successful company I started 7 years ago and have a small staff of 25. I worked my way through college, paying as I went. Therefore, I graduated in my early 30s with a double major in accounting and business management. I am very proud of that. For a little background, I worked hard for my degrees and have zero debt. I know it took me longer than the typical student going full-time to college after high school. I worked full-time to pay as I took classes. I went to junior college first, then finished at a 4-year. I took 2 classes per semester for a long time, but I finally made it. I have been teased that junior college isn't the same as going 4 years at a major university. Well, I am proud to have done both and feel the education I received at junior college was excellent. I worked as an accountant for some large corporations, as well as programming and IT. I started my company doing similar support to large and small companies alike. I have a wonderful staff. I manage the contracts, kick off meetings, sales and consulting staff. I also do some of the consulting and most of the sales/contracts. My sister is my office manager, and I am blessed in so many ways to have her. I was dating my now fiancé before I started my company, and we recently got engaged. Everything seemed to be perfect, except he keeps introducing me as a bookkeeper. No respect intended to them or the profession. My issue is that I have worked hard to get to where I am. I am an accountant, graduate with a double major, and successful business owner. He could pick almost any other title to introduce me as, but he chooses bookkeeper. I have asked him many times in private to stop calling me a bookkeeper, as it implies to my clients and business associates that he doesn't respect me or what I have accomplished. He said he doesn't see the big deal or the difference and continues to do so. I recently pulled him aside and asked him to introduce me as a consultant at the event we were going to. While there, we were talking to a prospective client for my company, and he says she has come a long way for a bookkeeper. I know my face had a full blush at that, excused myself, and walked away. We had both driven there, so I got in my car and went home. We both own our own townhomes. I sent him a text to let him know I was leaving and would talk to him later. He thinks I am overreacting. My family thinks he is a controlling that doesn't respect me or women. I'm not sure what to think now. He seemed so supportive when we were together, but not when we are around other people. He tends to treat me like a subordinate, nice kid playing with the adults. He does talk down to me in front of my family, but I always assumed he was joking badly. So, am I the a-hole for leaving and overreacting?
Oh, you started this one off Friday.
Spicy Friday.
I don't think we need any clarification. This just sounds like a really bad partner. OP, you are not the a-hole. It sounds like you probably need to just step away from this relationship because it doesn't sound like it's going to get any better. If this is what you're already dealing with before you're married, imagine what it's going to be like down the road. If he's already disrespecting you now and doing it in front of your parents and your family, that's a no-no. Because I can only imagine in private. I mean, she says that when they're together, he treats her well, but I think that's only going to last for so long if he treats you like a peon in front of others. Like, normally it's the other way around, so that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, that is a little odd.
Yeah, she's not the a-hole for wanting to leave that. I guess it was a dinner party.
It sounded like a business event.
See, so that's important. It was a prospective client is what she said.
Correct, for her company.
And then he dogs her in front of him.
Yes.
You've come a long way for a bookkeeper. Like, ooh, that's bad. I guess congratulations Congratulations to the OP, by the way. It sounded like a hard grind that she accomplished. Double majored, took till she was 30 to get everything done because she worked all the way through it. Was taking 2 courses a semester. That takes forever to get through school. Only taking 2 because she needed to work while she was doing it. Kudos for you for being the grinder that you are. You deserve all the respect from everyone around you, especially when you're asking for it repeatedly, because that's not the first time he's done that to her. I think you probably need to step away from that relationship, because if he's not going to respect you now, that's not going to get better later. It's a good thing this happened before you got married. So yeah, that's just how I feel. She's definitely not the a-hole.
Well, all of Reddit also says she's not the a-hole.
The only way I'd be shocked is if you're like, yes, Reddit believes she's the a-hole. Like, where are we right now?
Misrepresentation.
Where are we? Yeah.
So, I have a couple commenters I'd like to read.
I can't wait for this one.
The first one says, not the a-hole. This man is freaking military. He understands what titles are and why they matter, and he is doing this on purpose.
That's very true.
Additionally, my family thinks he is a controlling that doesn't respect me or women. If you love and respect the opinions of your family in other circumstances, and you trust them to have your best interests at heart, then you should always listen when they say things like this to you. In the end, you get to make your own choices, but when you have a loving family, the chances of them saying this without meaning it are really slim. The people who love us can see what we can't and what is best for us. Additionally, another commenter said, because I'm snarky, if I were OP, I'd make a point to call him by several ranks below his actual final rank and say I didn't see the big deal.
Oh, that would definitely get under him. So the thing is, though, at this point, was there an update? Did she give an update?
There is an update.
Oh, you.
I was trying to keep it at the end. You called me out. So for our first update, our poster says, I had a conversation with him after a few days. He feels I'm lucky to have him and need to listen to his advice more and not overreact. The attitude, along with reading everyone's replies, thank you, I have called it off with him. I need someone who is proud of me and caring. My family responded by buying champagne. LOL.
Hey.
Now for the second update she provided. Had another conversation with the ex-fiancé. Now that I had time to get my emotions under control, he was willing to let it go. I laughed and told him I'm fine and so are my emotions. I told him about the post and that he should read the replies. Let's just say he was not happy. I did say no name was used, just me, I, and he. Here is the total shocking part. He wanted to know what I was going to give him for his help with my company. After the shock wore off, I handed him $1 and walked away. I told the family, and my brothers wanted to pay him a visit. I told them I handled it and gave him $1. We all laughed, went to the store, and got more champagne. God, I love my family.
Good for her. Good for her family. Hey, I don't feel bad for the guy. You sound like a tool. So, yeah. That was a good ending. Good, yay, good start.
It's the start of a good weekend.
Start of a good weekend.
So on to our next story. We're still going to stay in the relationship hemisphere. Am I the a-hole for not canceling my plans after my boyfriend learned about his diagnosis? I, 25 female, work in event planning, so I always get invites or tickets to go to high-end events. There was a huge event coming up that I was really excited to go to. I asked my boyfriend, 27, 3 days before the event to accompany me, and he said yes. So originally, the plan was my boyfriend, my stepsister, and myself. On the day of the event, he said he had a doctor's appointment, so he isn't sure if he can still attend. I said no problem, and I waited for him to return home. A couple hours later, he texted me and said he has something to tell me. I got worried and called him immediately. I asked if everything was okay, and he said he was diagnosed with anemia, so he'll have to take supplements. I expressed how sorry I was and spoke to him for about 2 hours, gave him pep talks, told him I'm here if he needs me, reassured him that I will always love him, etc. I then asked if he would still like to attend the event with me to take his mind off of things, to which he responded that he doesn't like the artists performing, so he'd rather go to another event. I said no problem, I will go with my stepsister alone. He got upset and hung up. I called him back, but he started an argument about how I'm selfish for going out while he's going through something. I told him that I already made the plans with my stepsister, and I can't back out now as she's depending on me. I also don't drink, so I would have been the sober driver, and if I didn't go, she couldn't. I told him that this event is the only event my sister really wanted to attend, and I promised her that I would take her months prior. I even told him I'll see him the next day, and he said be safe and hung up. I got to the event around 11 and spent the entire event alone, just sitting down and watching the show by myself, having food and drinks. When I returned home around 2 a.m., I called him and he was awake playing video games. His first words were, "Look who cares about me again." I said, "I'm too tired for this." And he responded by saying that of course I'm tired. I went out without him knowing he's upset. But I love partying and meeting new people so much that I didn't think to stay with him on the phone. I told him he's being ridiculous, and I would have stayed if it were just the two of us who planned to go. He said, "My priorities are off, and I am an ignorant a-hole. Keep in mind, I don't attend parties unless it's with my family, and I only attend events a few times a year. So, am I the a-hole for not staying on the phone with him and attending the event instead?"
So, I don't think I really need any clarification. From what I understand with anemia, it's an iron deficiency. You know, like that's an easy manageable thing. I'm sorry that he got diagnosed with it because I'm sure whatever diagnosis you get, I'm sure it can't be, even if it's not as life-threatening as that, no matter what it is, I'm sure it can affect you differently, whoever you are.
Oh, definitely.
Especially on the age and all the other factors that go into whether or not how you handle something. So, that being said, the OP is going to a work event with a sister.
It just sounds like it's just an event, but she promised her sister. And I'm guessing she probably got like tickets that was really well discounted. So
this was an event that was supplied through her work that she's being able to take advantage of.
Correct.
Taking her little sister to go see something she really wanted to go see. Them making plans for this months prior.
Correct.
The boyfriend just got an invite to this like 3 days before it happened.
Right. She probably got an extra ticket and was like, yes, I don't have to do this like alone and just maybe DA.
Sure. So he goes to the hospital, gets his diagnosis. Obviously, he's not handling it super great, but the OP still wants to go along with what her plan was to take her sister with her because she really wanted to go to this thing. So she stays on the phone with him. She helps him for a couple hours, is there for him.
Yes.
Okay. Because of anemia.
Again,
I'm not trying to make anything trivial, but just take some supplements and go to the freaking carnival or the event and have fun and take your mind off of something that's clearly, I don't know. I'm not going to baby this one.
I could see you're not trying to hold hands here.
I'm just, come on with that. So, no, the OP, you're not the a-hole in this situation. Your boyfriend needs to be less sensitive about, I don't know, I'm not trying to be a butt.
Reddit actually does agree and say she's not the a-hole. Okay. In fact, let me read a few funny commenters. So the first one says, "Not the a-hole. Anemia is so common. I put it in quotations because there are so many different types of anemia. Okay. Supplements? He's probably iron deficient and needs to take vitamins. The 2-hour pep talk you had to give him about having to take supplements is embarrassing for him." He basically threw a huge pity party that continued until you called him later. I would take this as an opportunity to examine his emotional maturity and how he treats you. It sounds to me like he can easily make you feel bad and guilty about things you shouldn't feel bad or guilty about. And he took up 2 hours of your time earlier on the phone because the doctor told him to take vitamins. He sounds like he's immature and craves your attention, and he doesn't care about your happiness. Yeah. Another commenter said, "When my doctor told me to take iron pills and vitamins, I was like, okay, and told my husband, and he was like, okay. And then I got some iron pills and vitamins and took them, and everyone was okay." Yes. For our last commenter, they say, "As I lay sick in my bed, hand clutched to my racing heart, my chiseled doctor consoled me as he prepared me for the transfusion. As I braced myself for the sting of penetration, the door burst open and my boyfriend collapses to his knees. 'My darling,' he cried, ripping at his 3-piece Armani suit. 'Is it true? Why, if I only could provide my own lifeblood for your fortitude, let it run through your veins and return life to your pallid visage. I would rip my own beating heart from my brawny chest, all for your own vitality.' My hand reached for his, but before I could make contact, I realized no one gives a shit." Redditor is so amazing.
So stupid. That was a good one. All right, that one wins.
Thank you. Thank you, Redditors. I appreciate all of your comments.
I felt like I was in that movie.
Well, we went from some funny drama. Let's see about this type of drama.
Oh no.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for telling a girl her presence offends me, then asking her to leave? My ex, Josh, 18 male, and I, 18 female, have a 1-year-old child together. He's a good parent and all, but we don't really mesh well. After a while, all we do was fight and we decided to break up. Before we started dating, there was this girl, Zoe. Apparently, Zoe and Josh never dated, but everyone insists that they would have had she not moved away. One of the first things Josh's friend said to him when we broke up was, "You should call Zoe up." I've heard plenty of how perfect they are for each other. She's super pretty too. I'll admit, she was another reason we broke up. Even though she moved hours and hours away, her and Josh would still talk. Nothing ever happened, but you know. Well, she moved back into the area some few weeks ago, and I haven't seen Josh this happy in a long time. Our daughter's birthday was soon, and we agreed on doing birthdays together, and Josh asked if Zoe could be there too since all of our friends were coming anyways. I was going to say no, but I technically had no reason to. She's been super nice to me and our daughter, and it's not like Josh and I are together anymore. She came, and everyone's attention was on her. Many of them hadn't seen her in years, and well, like I said, she's very pretty. My daughter obviously didn't care, but I felt that everyone was being a bit rude. Even Josh's dad was like, "Wait, you're the Zoe?" and talked to her for ages saying how glad he was to finally meet her. Don't get me wrong, everyone was super sweet to my daughter, and my daughter really likes Zoe, but she was the main topic the whole time. My mom noticed this too, and kept trying to turn the attention to my daughter. When she gave up, I got really upset. Everyone went out to the backyard, and Josh had our daughter. Zoe stayed behind for whatever reason. She started telling me how cute my daughter is. I wasn't in the mood though, so I just replied with mm-hms, and she noticed and was like, "Did I do something to offend you?" She looked at me like I was crazy, and I was so over it. I told her that her whole presence offends me and that I'm tired of hearing about her all the time. I then asked her to please leave. I heard her call me a bitch, but she just quickly whispered something to Josh, then left. Now everyone is mad at me because Zoe said she doesn't feel welcome. My parents are the only ones on my side, but I don't know how reliable that is considering. Please be honest. Am I the a-hole here?
This one's a spicy meatball.
I told you, a different type of drama.
In my opinion, I guess we'll start with this. The OP is definitely the a-hole. I feel like you said this Zoe person didn't do anything to you. She's never been a bad person towards you. She had what sounds like a good relationship with your daughter. So, I mean, it already clicks the boxes of making me think that she's an okay person. The only issue here is, for the OP anyway, is she has a very low self-esteem. And that sucks because you can see it through her writing, how pretty or beautiful this Zoe character is. So she might be looking at it through some very weird lenses where she's like, everything's about her, where I'm sure it wasn't that much about her. I think she was just taking it a little more sensitively because it sounds like she's jealous. And unfortunately, that goes along with having very low self-esteem. They're young. I think you said they're 18?
18.
They're very young. So for her, I'm sure it can't be easy to see your ex with someone that apparently there was already kind of an existing relationship while you were together with your ex. Not like a relationship, but more like a friendship. But if other people around you were saying they should have dated, but there was a distance between them, which is why they didn't. There's already a weird thing that was going around pre them breaking up, I think. I mean, even she alludes to it. So
correct.
I think she would be the a-hole, but I just think it's her age and maybe a little more perspective and some self-esteem will help fix all of that.
Well, you've hit on almost exactly the same points as Reddit, and they also agree that she is the a-hole. They say that it shows where she's being very jealous and sort of petty. They say, you know, a lot of the times when it comes to birthday celebrations, especially when it comes to kids, like young kids, it's not truly centered just around the child. A lot of the times it's just a reason to everybody to come together and enjoy just spending time and talking. You have the moments where you dote on said child, but it's not everybody's just going to keep talking about a 1-year-old the whole time.
Sure.
Actually, there was a couple commenters who said that if she was feeling that uncomfortable and that negative with her to begin with, she should have just told her ex, I don't feel comfortable with having her at
Sure.
the party, and I would just like to not have her come so that there's no hard problems there.
Well, hopefully she learned from the comments.
Oh, it seems like it. She answered a couple times
Oh.
through the comments and just was saying that she's very aware that was pretty petty about this. And
Okay.
you can definitely tell she was taking the criticism
Good.
pretty well. It was more of just confirmations of, yeah, that I see what you guys are saying.
Awesome.
So
It's always good when you can like see what your shortcomings are and try to fix them going forward.
she's still so young.
Yeah,
18.
that's all young, and I'm sure again with all the things that were happening.
And between that and your child is just 1 year old, I mean, all the stresses that comes with parenthood and being young.
She's still got some growing up to do, but at least she can already see where some of it is, and she's not fighting against it.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be the best part about this.
She'll be a good mom, and she'll be a good person.
Well, on to our next story. Let's switch to a family wedding. Am I the a-hole for calling out my sister for not making her wedding accessible friendly for family? For context, I, 34 female, am a single mom to my daughter, Mia, 8 female. Mia has been disabled since the day she was born and needs wheelchair assistance and constant care whenever she is awake. Absolutely love her to death, and it's only been us during this entire journey, so I'm definitely super protective of my little girl. I also have a sister, Cassidy, 28 female, who just called me about the logistics/plan for her wedding in 6 months to her fiancé, Max, 27 male. She said the wedding was going to be at a beach near our city, and it will completely be held in the sand. Basically, a 35-person ceremony right by the water, followed by a bonfire and barbecue also in the sand. She said she just wanted to let me know before she sent the official invite because of Mia. I truly have never been more shocked and disappointed in my sister. You would think she would at least check in with me before she reserved the beach space because Mia obviously can't come. And now she's only telling me because it's set in stone and there's nothing she can change. I tried explaining how hurtful this is to Mia because Mia loves her auntie, but she'll be absolutely heartbroken not being able to attend the wedding. It's already so difficult raising a child with disabilities without a partner, but when even family is this inconsiderate and cruel, it's truly the worst feeling. Cassidy immediately started deflecting, saying her and Max checked to make sure the beach had a sand-friendly wheelchair for me to rent, $110 per day. The audacity to ask your gas to be paying just to make it to the event, especially when she knows I cannot afford this. Then she said how she will not change the location because her and Max met on this very beach, and it has been their dream ever since to get married here after they also got engaged here. When I suggested she pay for the rental, she kept saying how her and Max already had to cut so much out of their budget and plans because they also can't afford much. Like, you're already paying for a whole wedding, but can't afford a rental for your family to come? I was talking to some moms of children with disabilities, and they all agree that it sounds like Cassidy doesn't even want Mia there and is using all of this as an excuse. I'm thinking about just telling her that we won't be attending her wedding and supporting a person who's so inconsiderate to her own family. So, am I the a-hole?
Based off of how you read it to me, okay, this OP is the a-hole. I don't need to really. So this one's really bad. Like, normally I end up a lot of the time, all right, I get caught up in looking through the lens of the OP. Now, when they write in this type of fashion, when I hear it anyway, it sounds like she already made some good points to combat her argument, where she's like, they're already paying for the wedding. They're doing all of these things. Oh God, they met on that beach. They got engaged on that beach. It obviously means something to them. It is their wedding. They went out of their way to go see if there was a rental for a wheelchair accessible for the sand. Does she not hear her argument? Like, what? They're paying for everything already. They asked, yes, okay, fine. $100-something for a wheelchair for a day. That sucks. Fine. But I'm frustrated for this story. I think she's the a-hole, definitely, because she's not taking the bigger picture here. She sounds very selfish. And I don't like saying that because, again, her daughter is obviously disabled and she does care about her a lot. But she needs to take a step back for a second, and not everything revolves around her and her daughter. But it sounds like her family still was able to make sure that there was accommodations for Mia. So she's definitely the a-hole. I think she needs to take a chill pill and like really assess what bad family is, because if she thinks that's a bad family, she got it good.
I mean, we can talk about our last episode with the brother.
Yeah, like just take a look back. Like we've heard some devastating stories about what real bad families are. Yeah, she's definitely the a-hole.
All of Reddit also agrees that she is the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people are saying guests usually pay more than $110 between the outfits,
just what you're wearing,
between gifts, between gas and hotel if you're talking about going like out of state.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot that goes into a wedding just as a guest,
Yep.
which is why a lot of guests prefer to keep the cost to a minimum. If this wedding is really close to your home, you don't have to get a babysitter. The only thing that you're paying is this $110. And it sounds like the future bride and groom are paying for everything else. They accommodated fairly well.
That's why she says it in her thing. She's like, oh, they're already paying for the wedding. Couldn't they just pay for this too? Like, do you hear yourself? Is there a follow-up? Does she like say that she's seen
There's
the light?
no follow-up.
Oh,
I tried
no.
looking
Did she get
into
hurt by
it.
reading it and just go, you know what? No.
We don't know.
No, Reddit.
I wish we did.
She goes to her daughter. She's like, Reddit agreed with us. We're staying home. We're staying.
You never know.
I hope that she saw it and kind of course corrected.
Well, let's go to some more wedding. For our next story, am I the a-hole for leaving a wedding to eat at McDonald's? Hi, I'm female 25.
Hi.
Recently, my colleague, female 31, invited me to her wedding, which happened yesterday. I was super excited and happy for her. Just in case, I asked her if there was any guest fees. She said no, you don't need to pay me anything. On the day itself, everything went well until it came to the reception, dinner time. To my shock, I was presented with a wedding menu that had prices on it. For example, steak, $50. Everything was ridiculously expensive, including the vegetarian options. At first, I wanted to question her because, well, she lied to me that I didn't have to pay for anything. But it was her wedding, and I didn't want to spoil her day by embarrassing her in front of everyone. However, the only other option was to simply not eat, as I didn't bring enough money for both a meal and a ride back. But this was completely unfavorable, as I had skipped my lunch to save space for the wedding meal and was pretty hungry. Suddenly, I remembered that I saw a McDonald's about 5 minutes away from the hotel. As tactfully as I could, I asked the bride if I could make a quick stop to McDonald's, as I didn't bring enough money for the reception meal. I said that I'd be back in time for the gift ceremony and cake. I thought she'd agree, but to my horror, she got really upset. She said that she put in so much effort to get this Michelin star restaurant service, yet I still wasn't happy, that I was trying to bring her down by saying that I'd rather eat McDonald's. Alarmed, I said that I didn't mean it that way. I just didn't have the cash for it. She then scoffed, saying, "Whose fault is that?" Although I was trying to keep in my anger, those words really pissed me off. So I told her, "You were the one who lied, that I didn't need to pay for anything." Getting angry as well, she replied, "What I meant was that there is no attendance fee. You literally assumed that you'd get a free 5-course meal. Wow, you're cheaper than I thought." With a glare, she asked me to leave her wedding. I did, struck dumb and rather hurt. And on my way home, I grabbed a Big Mac, LOL. Back at home, I told my boyfriend everything and asked if I was the a-hole. He thought it was a funny story, but said I was the a-hole. If I didn't have the money, I could always pay her back later. In his exact words, he said, "You chose the wrong time to be stingy." My other friends agree as well, saying that it was not tactful of me for doing that at the wedding. And although she lied, I should have just brushed it off instead of dampening her happy spirits. After hearing their opinions, I felt quite guilty and embarrassed. However, that one little part of me still thinks that it's justified because 1, she lied to me, and 2, publicly humiliated me. Please help me out. Am I the a-hole?
This is an interesting story because she's already letting us know the conflict within her family and friend group about what her reactions were. And I'm trying not to have that sway my reaction because they do put it into some good perspective from their part where they're like, it was a wedding that she went up to the bride and made this big deal about the meal and not having the money for it in that moment. She should have just waited, dealt with being hungry for a little bit longer through the ceremony, and then gotten her Big Mac on the way home afterwards. Because from all the stuff, if you've not been in a wedding or if you've not been a guest at a wedding, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. There's a lot of moving heads, a lot of situations happening all at once to make sure everything is coordinated. And I think the last person you need to bring your problem to on that day is either the groom or the bride. There's so much going on that little thing, I'm sure if she had a moment that wasn't in that time period, the bride would have handled that a little bit better. But everything else is going on, so every little small thing adds up to a big thing later. So I'm sure that's what that accumulated to at the end. Obviously, she had some really harsh words for the OP, but yeah, I gotta have to side with her friends and families. There probably should have been a better time to maybe not have even brought that up. Just like, you don't have the money. Yeah, that sucks. This is a good learning experience though for her and, other people who are listening to this or have read this through Reddit. Don't expect for anything to be covered. I don't care if it's at a wedding or if it's at a birthday party, or it doesn't matter. You should always assume that maybe you need to be paying for something. That's just a good way to live, because if you don't have to pay for something, then that's just extra money in your pocket, right? That's just how I feel.
That's a good way to look at things.
She's definitely the a-hole. There's a time and a place for everything, and that definitely was not it.
Well, all of Reddit actually says she's not the a-hole.
Wow.
But it was a pretty split. It was like by minor.
I don't like the way the bride talked to her in the moment.
Possibly.
But like I explained earlier, is like it's a compounding thing, but I get it.
So let me go ahead and let you know from the not the a-hole sayers and the a-hole sayers.
Okay.
So when it comes to the reason why a lot of the consensus was, not the a-hole, is because the bride didn't clarify that you had to pay for your meal. And a lot of the times when you're invited to weddings, a lot of the costs...
It's comped.
It's not just comped, but if it's not comped, you let your guests know.
Okay.
Another bit of detail that was actually in the comments, because of course a lot of our Redditors ask for extra information.
Love that.
Is... how did everybody else take this as well? And from what the poster responded is that there was quite a few people that wasn't ordering food.
Oh.
So I'm guessing what had happened is because the bride is seeing quite a few people not ordering because they weren't expecting that, when suddenly our poster goes up and says, hey, I'm going to go get something to eat because, it's a little too expensive here. She got angry at her because it was the first person to actually...
I said it. It's the compounding of all the little problems.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of leaned more towards not the a-hole.
Okay.
Where a lot of people who were saying that she is the a-hole, one should have expressly asked, is food going to be included or do I need to pay for that myself? Sure. Not like, do I have to pay for anything, making it like an overall general, like, hey, do you need for me to pitch something in to help you pay for this wedding? The other part says you should always have had a credit card on hand when you go to some of these things, just in case there's something that's unforeseeable and unavoidable. Yeah. Apparently, our poster said that she didn't have one of her credit cards with her, but in the future, she's going to, of course, make sure that she will have it as backup money just in case.
We all learn lessons.
Good guy Reddit, always trying to offer the best.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Thank you. Well, let's go to our last story, and the best, in my opinion.
Uh-oh.
Am I the a-hole for spoiling my friend's child and turning him against her? I, 31 female, am a single woman who lives alone and doesn't intend on having children of my own. I'm not wealthy, but I make enough to very comfortably support myself. I work from home and have a flexible schedule, so I have a lot of time to live how I want. I have a complicated friendship with Emma, 27 female, because I love her, but she frustrates me. Emma is a single mom with 2 children, Caleb, 7 male, and Grace, 4 female. Grace has had serious lung problems since birth and contracted RSV in October and has been hospitalized since. It's been a horrible time and she is finally more stable now, but not well. Early into Grace's hospitalization, Emma asked me to take Caleb. Emma lives with her parents who were not willing to watch him full time, so I happily took him in and temporarily converted my den into a room for him. He's a sweet kid who's been through a lot, and I'm happy to give him some quiet space. I've never taken care of a child long term before, and my life was not set up for kids, but he adjusted well. I love cooking and collecting special ingredients to use and trying new recipes, and Caleb just rolled with it. I grow microgreens at home, and he's loved watching the process and incorporating them into his food. He hasn't liked everything, but he's always willing to try. I like pour painting, and we've always been having craft nights where he gets to experiment with his own canvases, which he enjoyed. We also take trips to museums and shows. I've kept up my regular life, and luckily, he was thrilled to come along. I would have struggled to come up with more kid-specific lifestyle. Emma usually only calls weekly and sees him maybe once or twice a month, which bothers me, but the Grace situation must be draining, so I try not to hold it against her. But it does mean that Emma really has no idea what we do day to day. Yesterday was Christmas, and he was going home to visit his mom. I sent him with his gifts, shoes, and books, plus gifts from his mom and sister. His grandma dropped him off last night and didn't really say much to me, which was weird. Caleb looked sad and didn't want to talk about it, so I let it be, and we watched a movie before bed. Late that night, I got a call from Emma, crying at me for ruining her relationship with her son. I guess it didn't go super well, and she feels that Caleb is now spoiled because of me, and that what she can provide is no longer good enough for him. He wants to make kimchi with her. He wants to get a cat. He didn't want the mac and cheese his mom made for him. When Emma gave him a new coloring book, he told her about the paintings instead and asked her to get supplies so they could do it together when he went back home. He asked why she never takes him to museums. I was so thrown off by the screaming that I yelled back and told her I wasn't going to downgrade my life to suit her expectations, and she hung up on me. I feel guilty now. I really hadn't considered how I could be affecting Caleb's taste long term, but I think she should have thought about that herself. She knows how I live. Am I the a-hole?
Wow, okay. Yeah, you probably left the best one for last. So, I guess we'll start with this. I full-heartedly do not believe that the OP is the a-hole. And I'll justify it like this. She sounds like... I love how she starts this, though. I'm a 31-year-old. I don't need no children. My life is set the way it is. But it sounds like... through this process that a kid fits perfectly within what she's doing in her life, and it sounds like she's enjoyed it. Like it sounds like it's a mutually beneficial weird thing where, you know how it is where you're like, I don't want this certain thing in my life, and then you get it, and then it's like it enhances your life. The relationship with the kid ended up working out for our OP.
Oh yeah,
even
definitely.
though she didn't want a child, she ended up kind of getting a child, because the thing is, she says the mother gets to spend 2 days out of an entire month with him.
Yeah, at least once or twice a month.
And it's unfortunate circumstances. I'm sorry that the mother's going through this with her daughter. I hope that there's an update and we hear that the daughter's doing better, but I'm so sorry that that's the circumstance. But she gave her son over to someone who didn't ask for that, and
Correct.
She's not going out of her way to spoil this child. She's living her life.
I think the poster has done really well to, sure, her life isn't super kid friendly, but this child seems pretty mature and open-minded to everything that's being offered to him.
I mean, it's not his fault. It's not the OP's fault for her just living her life, and it's just being enhanced by the child. He's getting to go to museums. He's getting his horizon broadened. Between
the growing and the painting, being creative.
Why would you ever be upset that your child's being exposed to growth? So I'm going to stick with what I said. The OP is definitely not the a-hole. I kind of find it, again, funny that it's in something that she's okay. I don't think I want kids, and this is not something I've ever aimed for, but she gets a kid in her life, and it's almost like a glove fitting a hand. So good for them, though. It sounds like they have a good relationship, and his eyes are being opened to some stuff. I hate that the family's taking it the way they are towards the kid, having access to things that he wasn't able to, but everyone handles it differently.
Let me go ahead and give you the consensus for Reddit. They say that she's definitely not the a-hole. And there's actually some clarity that the poster actually provides in the comments, which is a lot of people asked, well, why is it that the grandparents couldn't take care of Caleb? And the poster was very honest and said that unfortunately they're dicks. They want the daughter to just sort of move on with their life and just she needs to just support her and the kids, and they're just over it for whatever reason. And then on top of that, a lot of people were saying, it's the way that this could be construed with this growing child is that the mother is essentially abandoning him, because it sounds like Caleb has been with her for an extended period of time. If you're talking that his sister went to the hospital in October, and now we're talking about past Christmas time, that's 3 months. 3 months, and she's only seen him maybe a handful of times.
Maybe 6 times in a 90-day span.
And that in, at least for us, us reading the story and looking in, that for a small child like that, it could be where he could be abandoned by his own mother. The poster was very honest and said that, it hasn't been very easy for him. He had been bullied in school after his father passed away, unfortunately. He's been going to therapy. He has guidance counselors, and between her trying to talk to him, they're trying to make sure that no matter what, he's got these good outlets rather than just going to a really dark place for a 7-year-old.
Sure.
Now, I actually have an update on the whole situation, which is apart from all of her comments. By the way, listeners, the update is actually in the links below. Please feel free to go ahead and peruse through her comments on the original post, and please go through the update because it provides a lot of information. Our poster says, "This isn't the happiest update, but not the worst either. It's also incomplete, but enough people asked me for an update that I felt I owed it to you guys. Emma has disappeared." Emma's the mother. "I have not heard from her since the phone call, and she stopped showing up to the hospital around the first week of January. Grace has been released from the hospital into the care of Emma's parents. She is still very weak and lethargic, but she's recovering as well as she can. I bring Caleb to his grandparents to see her several times a week, and it's just so wonderful to see how happy they are to see each other. I can barely hold in the tears. This has been so difficult for both of them, and I love that they have each other. There's been a never-ending series of meetings, visits, and phone calls from Child Protective Services, boards, and family lawyers these past 2 weeks, which has been a lot. There are complications to Caleb being placed with me that I had not considered before, and almost resulted in him being placed with his paternal grandparents, but ultimately it was decided it was best for Caleb to stay where he was, in his same school and near his sister. Barring any major complications, I will officially be granted temporary custody early next week and very likely guardianship this summer. Grace will remain with her grandparents for at least the time being, but me taking her once she's stronger has been suggested. It's uncertain if or when this could happen, but it's a possibility. It would be best for them to be together. Emma's social media is still active. We can see her opening our messages, but we do not know where she is or who she is with. I just hope she stays alive. I don't think I can ever forgive her for this, but her children still need her to be okay. Caleb will turn 8 at the end of this month. He wants to go ice skating. I've never gone myself, but I'm so excited to make a fool of myself with him. I just want to give him the best birthday I can. He deserves so much. If anyone has any cool ideas, I'd love to hear from them. It's not a happy ending. It's not an ending at all, but I don't see myself returning here, so it's the best ending I have for you. I'm sorry for how disjointed my thoughts are. There's just so much in my head these days." To add to it, our poster actually commented that they don't expect that the sister will be making it very long into adulthood.
You gave a very sad story. Suck the tears in.
Just think of anemia, okay?
Yeah, that's where I'm like, damn, I just got done clowning this guy, but now I'm acting like this. All right, so this story, the OP is a good person. I hate for the kids that the mother abandoned them. I can only imagine why she did that. As a younger person, I'd have been very upset hearing that a parent dipped. But as I've gotten older, life is seldom black and white, and I hate for the mother to have felt the extreme of not feeling good enough.
Well, it sounds like, at least to me, the loss of losing her husband, having one child who's sick.
That's what I mean.
And then another one who's doing well and seems to be doing better without her around.
It's not as easy as painting her as the villain. It doesn't sound like she has a lot of support. Not from her parents, not from anyone else. And I'm sure
except for just her friend.
That's a dark and a lonely spot to be in.
And when you think that your friend is somehow doing something better than you with your own kid, this is one of those complicated situations, unfortunately.
the story was a good one. I'm happy you shared it. I hope for the mother in this situation that she can come back around at some point and see her son and be a part of his life. LP, you're a good person. Yeah, I think I already said it. I hope for only good things for you and Caleb, and hopefully maybe there's a good story at the end for his sister.
Well, I know we will be sending Caleb, the poster, Emma, his little sister, all the best vibes that we can, positive thoughts. And if there's ever going to be another update, we can only wish for the best ones.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be regularly posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
We would love to hear what you think about the stories today in the comments below. And remember, if you see it, your story. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.